Hi and welcome to today's video where I will be talking about the role of project managers in change management. I will briefly cover, really understanding what is change management. Then we'll go into the role of what a project manager does within change management. And then I'm going to go into some of the key, like areas such as communication and engagement and some of the areas of mitigation, risk and challenges within change management and then summarize. So without delay, let's crack on. So firstly, let's understand change management. So let me define change management, and I'm going to regurgitate this as a statement. So change management is a systematic approach to dealing with the transition or transformation of an organization's goals, processes, or techniques. Now, the purpose of change management is to implement strategies for effective change, controlling change, and helping people to adapt to change. So, in summary, that's the definition of what change management is. So, next is really change management process. Now, what is the change management process? And the process here is, it's pretty simple, really. Key stages of change management are, such as planning, communication, implementation, and execution. Now, throughout that, or those stages, you plan the project, you plan the activity, you do the right communication, then you go to implementation, and then then you evaluate, and then go around the whole cycle again of planning, communication, implementation, evaluation of that change that you are doing. Now that happens not just at the beginning or middle, at the end. That should really happen at pretty much at every stage through your project. Change management needs to have a structured process within any environment. Anything change, if you are just winging it, it's not going to be very beneficial. There needs to be some structure. When there's a change, there needs to be a process that you follow, hopefully not too long-winded and cumbersome, but something that's very smooth and efficient and agile will really be helpful. But it's really key that you have that as part of your project management. So what now I'm going to go into what is the role of of project managers in change management. So firstly, as a project manager, you are there to be the instigator, all the initiatives, and manage those project changes throughout. You are, and I mean, you could class yourself as an agent of change, shall we say, where you are responsible for managing and maintaining those changes, and highlighting. You, as a project manager, you drive change while considering the project objectives. You look at the resources, you look at the stakeholder, you look at the risks, the benefits, pros and cons, and then evaluate that whole element within change initiatives. But you are not there to be the no person. You are there to look at change in, I would say, the neutral mindset, and saying whether it adds value or not. And I would say neutral mindset is what you really need to consider. So project managers as well, I would say you also are leaders in leading the change effort. Here, you will be, the importance here is that as a project manager, you champion change. You become an advocate for the need of change and the benefit of change once you've done good evaluation. Don't be a project manager that sits back and says, no, change is never going to happen. We're going to stick to the roadmap, and that's the way we're going to go. Unfortunately, the world doesn't work that way. You will need to change, and you need to manage that change and make sure that you are bringing the team together, because you do get a lot of people who don't like change. So you need to bring that team together. You have to bind the team. So you are technically a leader of change within your project. Next one is really, your role is stakeholder management, making sure that you identify your stakeholders, you engage with them, you communicate with stakeholders during your change initiatives, making sure that the change you are implementing doesn't have a detrimental effect on your project, and that actually you get buy-in from senior people, because there's also financial, there's potentially a time impact, there's probably a resource impact. All those things need to be considered. So making sure that your stakeholders are fully engaged and that you are keeping them informed throughout is really key here. So next one is change, and how you do your communication engagement. So as part of project manager, the next stage is really your communication planning. Here is really high, I highlight the importance here of being a very effective communication in change. So you've got to really get the message across, understand what that change is, and make sure that you communicate that to the right people, not just your stakeholders at the senior level, but the people on the ground, people are part of your team, people are going to do the work, etc. Making sure that you keep those channels open. um, Again, by lack of communication, people will have lack of understanding of the change, why you're doing it, when you're doing it, and why, what the impact is if we don't do it. You've got to communicate the whole picture. The other element is really for project manager within the change management process is engaging with the project team. Now, we've probably covered this a few times in every conversation and many other videos. As a project manager, you have to engage with your team, make sure that you share the strategies, you are fostering collaboration, encouraging participation, real good one, making sure that there's a and obtaining buy-in from your team members. Now, this is really, really key. That engagement with your team is really good. You should be the go-to person where people want to go to. And unfortunately, sometimes it does happen, and it has happened to me, where you suddenly realize that you've lost that engagement with your team, and you become, instead of trying to drive the team, you sit back as an outsider, and as a project manager who likes to deliver like me, you suddenly start feeling as if you're not adding any value, and that is really not a good place to be, because you cannot deliver and you've got to bring yourself back in. So the next area is, as a project manager, you need to mitigate risk and and the challenges that come with change management. So the first one is risk. Risk. You've got to identify the risk and manage it. So here as a project manager, you have to identify, mitigate the risk, and make sure that you are understanding the importance of that risk and how you're going to plan in contingency, develop contingency plans. You conduct a risk assessment to assess the change. So let's say you got change, somebody says we're going to do X, Y, Z change because we need it for X, Y, Z, but without really doing a process analysis of that risk, you identify it, you assess it, you understand it, you then talk to your team and your stakeholders to make sure you really understand what that risk is about and what impact it has. Then you can make a decision as a group whether you want to accept that risk, you want to mitigate the risk, or you you actually totally pass it to a third party, or you just don't go ahead. Simple as that. Um, so that's one of the roles. And the final one, really, in summary, I would say, is that you have to manage change resistance and overcoming challenges. As a project manager, you will find that change can brings resistance. You have to then address that people's concerns. You then look at providing training, providing support. You have provide empathy toward your team, and you've got to emphasize the benefits of the change if it is beneficial. Don't try to sell a change that you don't think is beneficial, unless somebody has told you why it's beneficial. So you have the grounds to push that forward. Um, so really understanding that managing the resistance is key, because all people do not take change well, and as a project manager, you really need to be careful about that. So, in summary, change project managers play a massive role in change management. You've got to firstly, manage it, understand it, make sure that you are following the process that's defined. Once you've assessed those changes, you need to make a decision on what you're going to do with that change. You have to understand the impact of that change, the cost implications, the resource implications. You have to get buy-in from your stakeholders, and you also have to get buy-in from your team. So, as you can see, project managers in change management process play a huge role in ensuring project success. I hope that was helpful, and thank you for listening today.